Welcome to my best day trips from Ljubljana. Hi guys, welcome to the Lenscap Chronicles. My name's Amanda and I have just spent over a week in the gorgeous capital city of Slovenia, Ljubljana. If you'd like to see some of my recommendations and what antics I got up to in this city, then click on the link to that video. But in this video, I'd like to show you some of the best day trips that you can do from Ljubljana. One of the great things about Ljubljana is that it lies centrally in the not oversized Slovenia, making it the ideal base for day trips to explore the rest of the country. If you only have a few days in Slovenia, it can be quite difficult to know which day trips to choose, especially if you go on platforms like Get Your Guide or Viator, which have so many options available. Since this is my second time now in Slovenia, I've actually visited most of these sites, either on guided tours or independently with car hire. So I'm gonna take the headache and hassle out of it for you and show you what these sites have to offer so that you can choose the ones that you find most interesting. Then all you'll need to do is go and find the day trip that includes those things that you'd like to see. So keep watching because I'm going to show you all of the great sites that you can expect throughout Slovenia on day trips from Ljubljana. Let's go check them out. The first one is perhaps the most popular day trip from Ljubljana is to the magical town of Bled. The northwestern corner of Slovenia is home to some beautiful pearls of nature. Alpine lakes, the iconic Vintgar Gorge, and the wider Triglav National Park. And of course, the infinitesimally beautiful and popular town of Bled. Bled is a small resort town set in the foothills of the Julian Alps and with the backdrop of the glacial Lake Bled. On a cliff overlooking the lake is the 11th century Bled Castle, which houses a museum, chapel, and printing press. In the centre of the lake is a small island, home to the pilgrimage church of the Assumption of Maria, with its steep staircase and bell tower. This is accessible by a small boat ride from the banks of the town of Bled. There is no limit to the number of lake and alpine walks available, with the fresh mountain air ready to transport you away from ordinary life. This stunning region is a destination in itself. This is actually the second time I have done this trip. I love it so much. I cannot wait to get back there. From the promenade of the beautiful Lake Bled is where you can most incredibly see the castle perched up on its hill. You'll also have views across to the island where we're about to head, and interestingly this lake is only 30 meters deep, so it's really not that deep at all. As you can see by the volume of traffic around me, Bled is extremely popular on the international scene and it's exponentially increased in tourism over the last few years. You will not be disappointed with the number of extremely incredible viewpoints that you'll find at the various locations around this small town. The Postojna boat trip takes roughly 20 minutes to reach the island. There are 99 steps, baroque steps, to climb to get to the top of the island. And in Slovenian history, if you marry a lady from Slovenia, you have to carry her up the 99 steps. Here we go, 99 steps to the top. I ain't carrying anyone up here. very popular activity to do on the island is to ring the bell within the church, and this apparently will afford you good luck. Now, it's not cheap, it's around €12 just to go into the church and ring the bell, and that's on top of the €18 it costs to get across in the Platinum boat. So generally that's not covered in the cost of your tour. Bled is a very special place, but they definitely make you pay for it. A visit to Bled is nowhere near complete unless you come to the castle, and the views from the castle are simply spectacular. You'll see the whole way across the lake, across to the main town, and of course the island itself. It's impossible to come to Bled Castle and not try the famous cake Kremschnitter. It's a puff pastry, cream, vanilla delight. Amazing. There's also no better location to eat your Kremschnitter than overlooking the beautiful Bled Lake and Bled Island. It's an idyllic setting, and guests who visit the castle can choose one of the very quaint white chairs overlooking the lake to enjoy their cake. Make sure to pack some flat shoes when walking around the castle. Guests will be greeted with quite a few steps as they wander around this magnificent medieval fortress that towers 130 metres above Bled Lake. For 800 years, it was the seat of the bishops of Brixen. However, much of what stands here today is from the 16th century. Exploring the castle should take you around about an hour, but do factor in the time it'll take you to enjoy your Kremschnitter cream cake, which is absolutely delicious. There are a lot of things to see up here though. There's a vinoteca, there's a honey shop, Ljubljana has huge roots in beekeeping, and there's of course the cafe where you will find your Kremschnitter and a lot of historical information in and around the buildings themselves. The frescoes within the 16th century Gothic chapel are breathtaking and contain paintings of castle donor Henry II and his wife Kunigunda on either side of the main altar. Of course, you'll want to spend some time on the terraces taking some of your best pictures of Bled. Among the museum holdings, there's a large collection of armour, weapons and jewellery. The castle, which is built on 2 levels, houses a museum collection that traces the lake's history from its earliest times to the development of Bled as a resort in the 19th century. Perhaps one of the most interesting areas of the castle is the printing press, a Gutenberg replica which guests can use to print a souvenir certificate with a little help from the master printer, of course. Next stop, the lake. There are many gorgeous restaurants and cafes to enjoy in Bled, but my favourite, or one of my favourites, is Villa Presserin, which overlooks the water, and it's so gorgeous. They often have live music, singers, and it's such a vibe. Let's go and check it out. A walk around Bled Lake is truly charming and will really help you appreciate both the size of the lake but also the island from different perspectives. It's really lovely, and the water is so clear that you can actually see many of the plants growing inside the lake. The colour of the water on Bled Lake is simply stunning. This boat looks like it's floating, and the colour will change depending on where you are around the lake. It's possible to walk around the lake. It'll take roughly 1.5 to 2 hours depending on fitness, but worth doing if you have the time, and a super peaceful, relaxing walk at that. One of the pearls of Triglav National Park is Vintgar Gorge, a 45-minute drive from Ljubljana and only 4 kilometres from the town of Bled, making it the perfect day trip to combine 2 of Slovenia's national treasures. After your hike, you can enjoy a delicious creme schnitter cream cake at Bled Castle. Well, now I'm set up in my funky hat. Let's start this hike that's 1.6 kilometres long past the super fast and angry Redona River, carving its way through this incredible Vintgar Gorge. Triglav National Park is the only national park in Slovenia. It is beautiful. I would highly recommend, if you can, to coordinate a trip out to Vintgar Gorge. It's cold, so you'll need to rug up. It's going to take you around 1.5 hours to traverse the very nicely constructed wooden pathways, but it's stunning, a visual treat. Now, don't be alarmed by the helmet. There are no falling rocks. It's a completely safe walk, and it's almost flat. There's a slight undulation to the pathway here, but it's super easy. Apparently the only difficulty comes at the end when there's a slight 10-minute hike upwards back to the car park. Otherwise, super easy, suitable for all age ranges, as long as you have a warm jacket and some flat shoes. Now, it does pay to plan ahead when visiting Vintgar Gorge, because you'll be given an entry time, and it's super important that you start at your entry time. We were running half an hour late on our tour bus, and the guy did not look very impressed, but it was only because we were with a big tour group, that they let us through. So they are quite strict. Make sure you get there at your designated time. Flowing water is crystal clear, and you can see right to the base of the gorge. It's simply breathtaking. Patience is required along this hike, because there are quite a few people also doing the hike and all stopping at the same time for photos. Very understandable, because it's just so beautiful, but it is a bit stop-start along the way. A word on ticketing prices. The day trip to Triglav National Park, Vintgar Gorge, Bled Castle, Bled Lake was 160 Australian dollars, 101 euros I think, which seems quite expensive for a day trip, especially when it's a reasonably large group tour. There's probably 8 to 10 on our coach. But if you were to hire a car and then have to pay the entrance fees at these sites and parking fees, it would actually end up probably costing a similar amount of money. And at some of these places it's quite difficult to park, so you run the risk of A, not sticking to time, B, finding it difficult to get a park, and C, paying just as much as you would to have it all organised for you. So that's my hot little tip for Bled in particular, as well as Piran, which we'll talk about in a little while. I'm going to paraphrase what our guide just told us to expect from the end of the hike. It's not a few steps up that takes 10 minutes. It might be with impeccable fitness, but if you are slightly mobility challenged, it is going to be quite difficult to get back up to P3, which is where a lot of the buses depart from at the end of the tour. So if you feel this might apply to you, then perhaps ask if you can be someone who turns around and walks back the same way you came, rather than heading up to the car park at the end of the hike. This is still part of the Vintgar Gorge experience. I'm walking back to the car park at P3, and it's along this dirt road at the base of the incredible snow-capped Alps, amongst these sprawling meadows with cows and gorgeous trees and very vintage-looking Slovenian homes. This is almost equally as beautiful as the gorge. But next up, let's go get some calories with a creme schnitter. Another beautiful lake that can be seen as part of a day trip is Lake Bohinj, and this is also part of the Triglav National Park. It's a lot bigger than Lake Bled. It's generally included in a day trip going to multiple other places because, as you can see, it's fairly quiet and it's not huge on the tourism scene, but it is very popular with nature enthusiasts, hikers, water sports lovers, and so forth. A popular photographic stop on Lake Bohinj is that of Zlatorog, and Zlatorog is a Slovenian god, a golden horn chamois or ibex, depending on the variation of the legend you hear, that lives in the mountains of Triglav National Park. And here we can see the old guy himself. At the head of the lake is a gorgeous stone bridge right next to the Church of St. John the Baptist, and this is quite a quirky church. It's super old and the frescoes inside date back to the 15th and 16th century, but they're a little bit sordid. Let's go check it out and I'll show you what I mean. Well, I'm inside the church and as you can tell, it's a little bit creepy. There are certain depictions of beheadings and the angels have teeth. Everything is super lifelike. It's €6, so if you want to come in and have a look inside the church and also ascend the bell tower. We're ascending the bell tower, and this has got some cracking views across Bohinj. This is a steep climb, folks. Watch where your feet land. Woohoo! Here we go. Let's check out these views. And there you have it, the highlights of Bohinj complete. So there's much less tourists running around in Bohinj compared to Bled, but it is absolutely gorgeous, and the sun on the water is a delight. Another incredibly popular and highly recommended day trip from Ljubljana is to the Brda or Lipica wine valleys. They're around 1.5 hours drive from Ljubljana. Here you'll be able to try some of the most delicious, delectable wines that Slovenia has to offer. I'm currently here at Klet, one of the famous wineries down in Brda, and if you do get yourself onto a coach as part of a wine tour, it's highly likely you'll visit here, as well as some other very quaint and well-renowned wineries in Slovenia. Here you'll be able to sample some very special white and red varietals. My favourite is the Ribula, a white wine. It's such a nice drop, you have to try it. There are more than 150 wine producers in this region, so you won't be spoilt for choice. And for most people, the rolling hills and the grapevines as far as the eye can see reminds them a little bit of Tuscany, which is why this region is also known as Slovenia's Tuscany. Part of the appeal of a trip to this region is the exquisite beauty that you will pass along the way. There is just no end to these rolling hills, rolling plains, and the gorgeous vineyards. There are some very cute villages to explore here, and some of them date back to the 14th century. We are about to check out some of those now. Let's go have a look. Part of your exploration in the Brda wine region should include the Dobrovo Castle, this perfect square castle with 4 turrets on each corner. It's absolutely gorgeous with incredible views across the winery area and the perfect place to come and take some photos. Inside is a gorgeous restaurant which flows to the outside area with seating underneath olive trees. Be sure to stop in at the restaurant for lunch. It is absolutely exquisite, and when else can you say that you've stopped in for lunch in a castle? I've just ordered some seafood. I've got a octopus salad and grilled calamari coming my way, and I've got a glass here of the Ribula from Klet, where we've just been. Gorgeous. One of the most well-recognised villages in Brda wine region is Smartno, and this was once a fortified hamlet, and it was first mentioned in literature somewhere around 1317. It's believed that it was built on a Roman bastion and was vital in the wars between the Habsburgs and the Venetians in the 16th century. The village is so quaint and simply beautiful. It can get quite windy up here, but it provides some great food, incredible wines, and even some honey and homemade jams. And most importantly, the views across the Brda wine valley from Smartno are simply unparalleled. Have you ever wanted to take a train in an underground cave? Well, here in Postojna you can do exactly that. It's the world's only underground cave train, and we are here in Postojna, which is around a 45-minute drive from Ljubljana. You'll see snow-capped mountains, so much greenery. It's a complete dream. The actual cave system is 24 kilometers long, the second longest in Slovenia. Only 5 kilometers of that is accessible to tourists, and roughly 3.2 kilometers of that is done by train. If you have any interest in geology, this is definitely going to appeal to you. The train will take you through a fantastic web of tunnels, passages, galleries and halls, and past astonishing karst features. It has a constant temperature of 8 to 10 degrees and 95% humidity, so you'll definitely need to bring a warm jacket. The cave was formed by erosions from the Lipica river, and guests can meet its famous inhabitant, the little olm, or the aquatic salamander, I guess, Proteus species. It's a tiny little creature that is widely regarded as the cave's little dragons. They're pretty cute, and there is a package here available if you want to see and meet these little creatures up close and personal. Behind me you can see just how popular this place is. This is somewhere it pays to be super organised, especially if you're coming alone. I'd highly recommend getting your ticket ahead of time. Obviously if you're on a tour they're going to take care of that for you. My hot tip would be to come in the afternoon, because a lot of the tour groups actually come here in the morning. Tours are roughly 1.5 hours, and some of that's on the train and some of that is walking around with a guided tour showing you the incredible structures. But for now, let's head on to my favourite site in Postojna. What could it be? We are now off to one of my absolute favourite places in Slovenia. This one has to go on your list. Check what's coming up around the corner. We are about to enter the world's largest cave castle and the largest preserved cave castle. This is Predjama Castle. Keep in mind this spot right here, because I've got a really funny story for you when we get a little bit closer. This castle lies above the town of Predjama. It is simply beautiful and the views here are amazing. It was actually used in the film Armour of God, Jackie Chan, in 1986, where he injured himself quite badly underneath the castle, but went on to finish filming. This place is an extremely busy spot, so I'm going to give these people a minute to get their photos. But the funny story goes that there was a rebellious man called Erasmus. He was a knight in the 1500s, and he used to hide out in this castle. It was actually a place of refuge for many people, but he used it to hide away from some people who were after him. And one of his servants betrayed him and told the enemy where he was hiding, and he died on the dunny. I'm going to show you exactly where, but basically the enemy were tipped off, and as he was running across the courtyard to the outhouse, to the bathroom, toilet, whatever you decide to call it, he was hit by a cannon. So that is definitely one way to go out, isn't it? Right up here is where Knight Erasmus died on the loo. Let's go and check out this castle. It is absolutely incredible, built into the side of a cave. It's €19 for a ticket, and there's an audio application that you can download that will give you information about the castle as you walk around. Predjama Castle is roughly an hour and a half from Ljubljana, and it's often included on day trips with Postojna, so you can go and see the caves and come to the castle at the same time. And this is one of the most picturesque castle windows that I found. It looks across to all of the other castle windows with their red flowers blooming in the windows, and down across the town of Predjama. Here we go. Let's go and check out the dunny. So as you can see, this exposed area was the perfect place for the enemy to attack and to take down Prince Erasmus, and that is exactly what they did. Once inside the castle, you can learn all about castle life, including what the bedrooms look like, the kitchen, dining areas, and general living spaces, all built inside a cave. The castle is huge, and I'd recommend at least an hour or two if you plan to go through the whole castle with the audio guide. Most of the day trips will actually allow for that. They will give you quite a bit of time here in Predjama Castle, but if you're doing it by yourself, at least you know how much time to budget. And there are so many steps in this place, you definitely need good walking shoes. We are now in the actual cave, nearing the very top of the castle. It's not actually known how far-reaching the cave system or systems is underneath the castle, but one thing's for certain, you will not regret a visit here. It's simply incredible. And after walking up all of those steps, the little town of Predjama at the base has some lovely places to stop in for some food and rehydration. An hour from Ljubljana are the incredible Skocjan Caves, and this is another place where you'll need to be highly organised because they'll have an entry time that you really need to adhere to. Now, our guide for the day knows this and has budgeted ahead of time for us to come to an incredible viewpoint called Stefania Viewpoint. It's just behind the entry to the caves, to the ticket office, so be sure to grab your ticket or arrive a little bit early and then head up the path. It will only take you 5 minutes, and oh my word, the view is sensational. You'll look over the village, Skocjan, and then down to the Reka River, which actually means river in Slovenia. Reka is the word for river. In any case, the Reka River is the fantastic river who has created these Skocjan Caves for all of us to enjoy and walk through. The various valleys of these collapsed cave systems are called dolinas, and there are two words actually from Slovenia that have been incorporated into English. One is dolina and the second is karst, and karst is the word for the limestone caves in this region and now throughout the world. Well, I better get back for my 10 AM entry to the Skocjan Caves. Let's go check out this Swiss cheese effect of these collapsed cave systems underground in Slovenia. Touring the Skocjan Caves is absolutely incredible, and I would highly recommend it. I actually preferred it over Postojna, believe it or not. It's super big on the wow factor. You'll literally walk into these huge caverns, some of them 130 meters deep, and you snake your way around a lit path. It's a very easy walk on a cement pathway, but you can see the origins of where the people who initially discovered the caves left their via ferrata, which is basically a very perilous looking pathway etched into the side of the wall as they navigated their way through these caves before the actual pathways were made for us. So So the pathway is around 2.4 kilometers long and it will take you roughly 1.5 to 2 hours with your guide. Unfortunately, it's not permitted to take any photos or video within the caves, but it is truly breathtaking and something you just have to keep as a memory for yourself. Incredibly, it takes a stalagmite or stalactite 100 years just to grow 1 centimeter. Absolutely incredible. There are so many different colors inside the cave, including even gold and silver, which is bacteria growing on the cave. So there is lots to discover. It's a breathtaking phenomenon. Very close to the Skocjan Caves is the Lipizzaner horse stud farm. If you've been to Vienna, then you may have come across the incredible Spanish riding school they have there, and the horses that they use in their shows are Lipizzaner horses, which herald from Slovenia. These noble white horses are native to Slovenia and the breed dates back to the 16th century. In 1580, the Archduke of Austria established this beautiful horse in Lipica, now known as Lipica in Slovenia. The Lipica stud farm is the oldest in Europe and has been in operation for over 440 years. Personally, I didn't have time to attend the stables, but you'll get an idea of what it's like on the website, and I'll include a link to that on this video. I have heard reviews that unless you have an interest in horses, the stud farm is not super informative, but if you do want to see a show with these horses on a Saturday, you can pay to see the show, albeit quite expensive. One of my favourite day trips from Ljubljana is to the gorgeous coastal town of Slovenian Istria in Piran. There are no shortage of incredible views of Piran in Piran. And here I join you from the St. George's Campanile, an incredible bell tower. It's simply breathtaking. It's roughly an hour-and-a-half journey. If you do plan to put this on your itinerary, then be sure to book it on a day trip as opposed to driving here yourself. The parking situation here is horrendous and you will find yourself either getting stuck without a park or parking kilometers away from the actual town. So make sure to just put it on your itinerary as a day trip, let the driver, the tour guide take the hassle out of it for you and just spend some quality time enjoying these impeccable views and of course some seafood and possibly a glass of wine. From up here in the campanile of St. George's Cathedral, I'm going to give you a bit of a visual as to how far you'll need to walk on a day tour around Piran so that you can see if it's worth your while or if it's something you can physically do. Because invariably what will happen is your tour guide will drop you off at Tartini Square or on the Old Town walls, and then you'll be left to yourself to wander around the town. Sometimes they'll provide a tour guide, but in general it's up to you to find your way. So you need to be a little bit prepared and you need to know ahead of time what you want to see. I am currently at the Campanile and St. George's Cathedral, and I'm going to show you the direction we'll be travelling and where I'll finally meet up with the tour guide at the end. Here are the Old Town walls, and that is where I was initially dropped off by my guide. After that we walked down here, down the pathway and up this pathway to the entrance to the Campanile. Now when you finish at the Campanile, you'll need to walk on the other side down this pathway, around the corner, past the mermaid statue, around the coastline here, and then you'll finally finish at the port and at Tartini Square, and this is where most of the tour guides will come to collect you. So it is a decent walk. You need to have reasonable fitness and some good walking shoes, but it doesn't actually take that long to do that entire loop, and we're going to do that today, and I'll show you some of the other places you'll need to check out along the way. And the route I'm showing you on this video is the exact one I would recommend if your driver will drop you at the Old Town walls. then you'll be able to walk downwards and circle around back to Tortini Square, now that you've seen it in my little video. But if you do it the opposite way around and you're dropped at Tortini, then you have got an epic climb up to reach all of these structures. So we're now descending into Old Town, and here we'll be able to admire some truly exquisite Venetian architecture. There's nothing much I love more than exploring European old towns. There is something new around every corner, something surprising, and here we go. I think we're almost at the coast now, down at the seaside promenade. Let's head around the rest of the promenade. This is a beautiful place to walk. It's very peaceful. There's often a bit of a breeze coming in off the ocean, off the sea, but there are a few famous sculptures and monuments along here. The most famous of which is a Little Mermaid, and there's a lighthouse. It's really lovely being so close to the water in this gorgeous town. Don't forget your swimsuit if you do fancy a swim in Piran. You can see these various access points dotted along the promenade. Let's go see if I can find some wonderful seafood. Wow, a good start. Incredible. It's very soft, very flavoursome. Wow, this is cooked so nicely. It's tender and soft. There's a garlic herb oil that is absolutely exquisite. If you find yourself on the Piran foreshore promenade, please give the seafood a go. It is divine, it's so fresh, and I'm sure any one of these restaurants will be just the same. There is nothing better than seafood with a glass of white wine after climbing a lot of stairs and experiencing a city overlooking the ocean. So I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this day trip to Piran. It's one of my absolute favourites, don't get me wrong. I love Piran and it is just such a beautiful city to walk through and to visit. But the only problem is that you get dropped off for between 2.5 to 4 hours depending on your day trip, and there's so much to fit in, and it's hard not to feel rushed when you're sitting here enjoying an exquisite seafood meal. That's the only thing I would say. It does limit your capacity to just kind of sit down and have an uninterrupted leisurely lunch without kind of checking your clock. And for me, I've got an actual alarm set so that I know to get back to my bus on time, because I know I will run over time otherwise. It is just simply so beautiful here. But I mean, can't really complain, right? Having an exquisite seafood meal by the seashore. Just incredible. The promenade and coastal walk will eventually bring you around to the marina, this gorgeous area where all the boats are docked, and right inside is Tortini Square, the piece de resistance of Piran. Piran's Tortini Square is one of Slovenia's most impressive squares. It's named after the famous composer and violinist Giuseppe Tartini, and his majestic bronze statue can be seen in the square.
Guests can also visit the frescoed house where he lived and admire one of his violins. Today, this great square is a large meeting place for locals and tourists alike, where small boutique shops and stalls sell tourist goods and local arts and crafts.
Thanks for watching this video. I really hope it's helped you put some kind of order to the chaos of all of the various day trips from Ljubljana to the outskirts of the country. If it has, please tell me where you went in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experience and what your favourite places were and why. And I'll see you in the next video on the next adventure. Bye for now.